Ready? Hello and welcome to my show, How to Market and Sell Life Coaching. I'm Ashley Jangro, your host, and we're hearing from Roberto Candelaria today, a successful coach and friend. And we're going to hear from him. How did he do it? So, Roberto, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. We're going to have fun. We're going to see where it goes. We're going to play. And yeah.
I love it. So Roberto is a brilliant business coach. He's my business coach, in fact, and he has made multiple seven figures and helped several others do the same thing. So he's on a mission to help 10,000 women and people of color make their first million in business. And I plan on being one of those people.
Yes.
So, Roberto, I think that there's several things that really make the way that you've built your coaching business unique, which is why I'm going to have you on the show several times for different topics. But today I really want to focus on how you've used partnerships to build your coaching business. So, if you could just give us
Yeah.
like the 2-minute overview of how you've started with coaching.
So I think what's important to this conversation is like to even put some timing on this. And so I'm going to say I started in a different world, meaning I came into the coaching space in 2009. And I say that because some of the things I'm going to say, some people may just be like, oh, that's so old school. That's all this. And I want to give that timing perspective because Facebook ads weren't a thing.
That is
TikTok
helpful
was
to
not a
know.
thing. Instagram, people weren't on there for business. And so while there's like with the advent of social media advertising, it provided so many different opportunities for people. Like we didn't have those in 2009. And so some of the things I'm going to share, like I think are just take us back to a day where business was completely offline at one point, and then at one point we were all online. And I think that now we're in this beautiful hybrid world where we have online and offline, and allowing yourself as a coach to say which modalities work for me. And so as I begin to share today, I don't know where our conversation is going to go, is keep this in mind as like the only right way is what works for you as a coach.
Oh, I love
Because
that reminder. That is so good.
because whatever Ashley does may not work for me. Whatever worked for me may not work for Ashley because we have all of these unique experiences in our human adventure that make us different. Like you've got kids. At one point, you were a single mom. I don't have kids. I have two German Shepherds. And so we have different life circumstances that make it where following any one cookie cutter program like is very hard when the recipe is not always the same because we have different lives. And so I
Yes,
think
I
that that's
think that's
important to start there.
I love that. And I think that's why I wanted to do this show, because I think, especially the world that I come from, you were a business coach before you became a coach, or a life coach, but I was trained in a very specific way. This is
Mm-hmm.
exactly how you build your coaching business. This is how you grow it bigger. This is how it has to happen. And that's why I wanted to start doing this show, because I realized there is an infinite number of ways that we could build our coaching business. So I wanted to hear from a number of different people that had done it different ways so that other coaches, especially ones just starting out, could see all of those different ways.
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned
So,
that.
yeah. So, back to your original
Mhm.
question, I started this not because I wanted to be a coach. I actually never wanted to be a business owner. I had an amazing corporate job, was doing good, and then life happened. I ended up with some medical diagnoses and was under anesthesia about 11 times during an 18-month period. And so I couldn't hold a traditional job. Again, this is 2008, 2009. So there was remote work, but not at the scale that we have it today. As COVID became such a beautiful example of like we could decentralize teams.
Mhm.
We didn't have that in 2009. And so there I was like, oh crap, I've got all this medical stuff. I didn't know I was going to be under anesthesia 11 times in 18 months, but I was in the middle of it and there's still rent to pay.
Yeah.
There's still bills to pay.
Mhm.
And at the time, I don't talk about this too much. I've shared it on a couple shows, but it's like also because of everything going on medically, like the business was started at a time when I was literally living on an $832 a month Social Security disability check and $104 a month in food stamps.
Oh my gosh.
And again, y'all, like perspective. perspective. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what I was doing was called coaching or called consulting. And let's be clear, when we look at the definition of coach, every coaching school has their own definition. And it's like, to me, I say a coach is someone that helps somewhere get further where they want to be in whatever they were hired for. So whether it be a business coach, help them get further in their business, like a life coach, help them further in life, a marriage coach, you help that marriage. And so to me, it's like we help people get closer to where they want to be as a coach. And that's really where I look at coaching. So I didn't have a lot of extra money. We didn't have Facebook advertising. We didn't have any of that. And so I had heard there were some friends that like the United Way did a lot of workshops. And as someone that didn't have the financial resources at the time, I was like, oh, they do workshops. So I went and talked to them and they were like, oh yeah, because I was serving a lot of nonprofit leaders at the time. And they were just like, oh, this is the Houston United Way. And by the way, y'all, you can do this at other United Ways around the country. So many of them still do this. And so I went to them. I was like, hey, I'd like to have a meeting here, whatever. And basically the person who was handling the meeting space at that time was just like, hey, so if you come do a training presentation for nonprofits here, like we give you the meeting space. You don't have to pay for the meeting space. And I was like, hallelujah, thank God, because I need that money for food.
No money.
And here's the thing, you can't charge for the event.
Okay.
You can't sell anything at the event, but like they market it to the people that they serve.
Okay.
And I didn't really know that this was called partnership or collaboration at the time. I was just like, oh my God, I get to tell people what I do. And I didn't have to spend a lot of money.
Okay.
And so I think that sometimes at its simplest form, when I look at partnership, what partnership really is, two or more, either individuals or businesses coming together and being like, how do we achieve a result together? And realizing that partnership isn't always about giving up equity. It's not about just affiliate commissions. It's not even about an exchange of money. It's how do we achieve this result together?
I think that's a beautiful definition of partnership. I love that.
I don't know that I've ever said it that succinctly. Hallelujah. We've got it on recording.
We have it on recording.
And that really led to me then, after doing that, working with chambers of commerces and going in and offering to present at Chamber of Commerce's. So one of the first organizations that I presented with was back then the Houston Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. And then from there, did some stuff with the San Antonio Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. Then got to do some stuff with some Black networking groups. And then so what happened is that all of a sudden, I was building a business and having connections by marketing offline versus marketing online. Because again, we didn't have Google ads. We didn't have Facebook ads. We didn't have any of this at that time. And so the way that we networked, the way that we connected was like in person, in real life.
Yes. So I have a couple of questions about this. When you were going to United Way and saying, yes, I'd like to present, did you have a signature talk that you presented? What made you feel like you had some expertise that you could share?
So I think that there's two sides to that. I think the courage to ask and having expertise are two different things. I had already been working in my field of sponsorship and nonprofit leadership at that point for several years. And so I already knew my skill set. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a job being paid for that skill set. And like I had the confidence from I've been doing this type of work, like the skill set and being paid for it. I wouldn't say that the other to ask was confidence. It was like I wanted to live indoors more than I wanted to live outdoors. It was like
you wanted to be able to pay rent.
I wanted to be able to pay rent. I wanted to be able to eat. I tell people like, look, I didn't get over 200 pounds by not eating. So like boy loves to eat and you need money to eat. And the $104 a month in food stamps, like at that time, like didn't cover food, especially now it wouldn't like. Yeah. And so it was like, I just was willing to throw myself out there and hear no, because I wanted running water, hot running water, electricity. I wanted to live indoors more than the other options. And so it's not that I knew, it was that I was just like, let's go find out.
We're willing to try. And I think this is really important for any coaches that are listening, because all of us do have an expertise, whether it's from something that we've done in our lives before we became coaches, or whether or not we even had previous jobs, we all have some expertise that we can teach. If not, even if we're thinking we don't, we have learned something during our certification, becoming life coaches, that other people need to hear. So there's always that possibility to approach and say, I have something to share. And I love that you
Absolutely.
started out doing it for free.
I'm just willing to put myself out there
Uh-huh.
and fail and embarrass myself
Mhm.
and it not work and it not go on schedule, because do I want to feel embarrassed or do I want to feel hungry?
So then how did you transition then from doing these free talks to becoming a paid coach?
Yeah, gosh, so many different ways. So at first, it wasn't even one on one coaching. My point at the time was just like, okay, what am I doing that allows me to take care of myself,
Mhm.
meaning health wise, take care of myself in terms of shelter, safety, food, all that type of stuff, and doesn't always require me, because if I'm under anesthesia, if I'm under doctor's care, if I'm doing physical therapy, if I'm on pain medications and everything else that's being prescribed to me in my treatment plan at the time,
You
I can't
can't
even
always
hold
be
a
present.
job. What makes me think I'm gonna be able to do everything one on one?
So you really had to
And
find something that fit your life at the time. So how did that happen?
right. And so where that happened there is I actually started working in other people's groups,
Okay.
teaching at other people's events. Then from there in 2011, I met a gentleman by the name of Rick Frischman. And at the time, I didn't know that Rick told this to everybody, because he made me feel so seen and so special. And he was like, you should write a book. And I was like, ain't nobody want a book on sponsorship. He's, you'd be surprised. It's going to be a bestseller. It's going to be, and I didn't know that's what he told everybody,
Huh?
but I believed him. I was like, nobody wants this. He's like, yes. And so I went and did that. And I wrote the very first book, and it was called Relationships Raise Money, a guide to corporate sponsorship, but it was heavily skewed to the nonprofit world. And like people started buying it. But what I realized, like even in that, is as people were buying it through like Amazon and through other places, that I had to wait for money. And I was like, I
Oh.
need money now, bitch. So
Just pouring in. Okay.
I'm like, no, I need to eat
I
now.
need now.
So I learned how to make a landing page,
Mm,
wrote a little bit of copy, and y'all are going to love this, y'all. I put a PDF PayPal button.
I love that. Okay. What were you selling?
I don't even think we had Stripe back then. I was selling the PDF of the same book that I was selling on Amazon.
Oh, okay. I love it.
And I don't know why. Like you couldn't tell me nothing at the time. Like I sold it as the same price as the physical book.
Because you didn't know any different. I love that.
So I didn't know
Okay.
any different. And so it was like $27 for the book on Amazon,
Mhm.
$20 for the PDF on my website.
Love it.
And it was like, but I knew then as I started to talk about the book, I started to sell the book more off my page than Amazon, because I was like, crap, like $27, that's gas money.
Mhm.
$27 coming in PayPal today means I get to eat different stuff. And so it was like every $27 that came in at that point was like accounted for. And in most cases, it was already spent before it came in.
Oh, I love that. So I imagine you were getting out there and you were telling everyone, I
I
have
was
this
telling
book.
everybody,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sending them to Amazon. I was sending them to my website. I was like,
Yeah.
this
You
is
get the full
great.
$27.
I make $27 minus PayPal fees for a PDF. And I don't even have to do
Amazing.
anything. And
That's so
like
great.
back then, we were on MailChimp. MailChimp had a free account. I don't know what they're doing now, because I know they just got bought out by Intuit recently, but it was like back then, way back then, MailChimp was like, you set up your free account and it's 2,000 contacts for free.
Yep.
And I was like, yes.
So then going from there, what was next? How did you start involving partnerships in this?
Oh gosh. So the next phase of partnerships really became the collaborations with people who were hearing the message, speakers that were hearing the message, event hosts that were hearing the messages saying, come speak to our audiences.
Love it.
And so I remember, again, Rick Frischman, this is now going, the book came out October 2011. So February, March 2012, Rick was like, come speak. And I'm like, I'm not a speaker. Now, mind you, I'd done my own trainings, I'd done this type of stuff, but I didn't consider myself a speaker, especially at an event like the type of event where he was running, where he would bring together like 300 to 500 people that wanted to learn how to
Oh,
be
wow.
authors, to do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh no, we don't do that. And what I was telling myself, I didn't tell him is I'm like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, I have a GED. Like, I'm not educated enough to be able to go do this. Like, I didn't finish high school and you want me to go tell people how to do something? Like, you got the wrong person. And so there was like so much in imposter syndrome, so much self-judgment, and Brooks, just do it. And so I showed up and I remember Rick asking, he's, okay, so what are you going to sell? And I was like, what do you mean? What am I going to sell?
My $27
And
PDF.
and he's in certain spaces in this industry, it's how it works is you become a platform speaker. I'm like, shit, I just went from a speaker to a platform speaker. I don't even know the difference. And he's, yeah, so what you do is you speak, and at the end of your speaking, you make an invitation, preferably into one of your online courses, and then I get X percentage of it. And I was like, X what?
You could not use that $27 PDF when you were
No,
giving
but I
over
was
a
like, X
percentage.
what?
Yep.
And I'm thinking like, wait, you can let me talk, but then I got to go record this course that doesn't exist. And then I got to sell it. And then I got to give you X percentage of it. And you ain't got to do nothing. Oh, like in my head, I was like, this man
But
just
that's a
trying to
good
take all
gig.
my money.
But he was providing you with 300 to 500 individuals, interested individuals right in front of you. So what did you
And
do?
so we went and did it. And the very first online course, the sponsorship roadmap was developed. It was literally outlined around the event. And we sold it at the end of it. And I made more money in 30 minutes than I'd ever made in my entire life in that time period.
How much did you make? Do
And
you remember?
I don't remember the exact number, so I don't want to say. I will say it was 5 figures, and I'd never done that in 30 minutes before.
Yeah.
And then obviously I gave him his percentage, and I was, this doesn't make sense to me.
Do you remember how much you were charging for the course?
It was either 197 or 297.
Okay. Okay.
It was
think
somewhere around there.
These are the details that I think are so interesting because when coaches are looking at, okay, how much do I charge for a course? You sold it for somewhere between 197 and 297.
But here's the thing, right? It wasn't even an online course at the time.
Oh my goodness.
And we actually did home study DVD sets. So like we were literally like putting the shit on DVDs and like mailing out DVDs and CD-ROMs with the templates and printed workbooks.
Goosebumps because I'm like, if someone ever said, I just can't figure out how to do the details, I would say, go listen to Roberto's recording and hear how he got started because he was literally putting on DVDs and mailing it out to people. If you can start like that, you can start anyway. You were mailing these out and charging somewhere between $200 and $300. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so I had them shipped to me. Mm-hmm. And what I did is I'd order like this many of volume one, this many. And so like the first DVDs were so ugly, like it was like black and white covers. It might as well have looked like somebody printed just like a Word document, like grayscale and put it on there. Oh. But I was just hungry. I wasn't worried about how does this look? Does it got to be perfect? Does it got to be this? It was, let's go. And so we were doing that. And then somebody who's become a dear friend by the name of Tom Antion, Tom started talking about this thing called online marketing. And I'm just like, oh, this is a fad. People ain't going to be buying shit on the internet. Who's ever going to buy a coaching course from online? Who's ever going to buy a digital product online? Like, you are batshit crazy. People will like not be buying online courses on.
That's hilarious.
And again, like this is over a decade ago, right? But there was a little bit of intrigue. And mind y'all, again, like I was still figuring things out. Like I'd made 6 figures cumulatively, but A, not all at once. And B, like there was all the medical expenses and everything goes on. So it wasn't like I was flush with cash. And so I met Tom and he's talking about this online marketing thing. And he had this $8,000 mentorship program at the time. I don't even know what it costs now. And I was just like, bitch, we trying to figure out rent. We ain't got AGs. So I found him in the hotel lobby and I was like, hey, Tom. And I've told this story before. I don't even know if he knows that I tell this story, but so don't go do this to him either, y'all. But I like went up to Tom and I was just like, look, I don't have the money for this thing. What else do you got? And he's, I have a program. It's like how to build a WordPress website for $20 or less. And I want to say the program was like $100 or $127, but I didn't have that at the time.
That's amazing.
And so like I told him, I was like, okay, can I do a payment plan on it? And
a payment plan on $127.
Yeah, it was like either $97 or $127. And I just remember him looking at me, and he was at a bar I can even tell you exactly where it was. It was at a hotel bar at the Westin LAX. And he just wrote on a napkin his email address, and he just set it in front of him. He gave me a napkin. He said, write your email address. And he said, when I get upstairs, I'm going to email you access to the course. And he gave me the napkin with his email address. And he said, whenever you have the money, just PayPal me. And like at that point, I had so many thoughts. I was so grateful because like he sees something, he believes in me. But I had never had anybody be that generous, like to me. Now, obviously, hello, let's be real. Like we're talking about pixels. Like he's emailing me pixels, right? Like he's emailing me megabytes and gigabytes and whatever bytes.
Right.
But it was just like, oh my God, like it's just somebody sees something.
That belief was such a huge part of it.
So I paid him, we're going to say it was less than a month before I gave him the money back.
Okay.
Because I went and did it. And I learned how to build a WordPress website. And I put the online course on sale. And I started making a little bit of money with it online. But then I was like, this is a fluke. This is a fluke. This can't be. And the reason I mention that is that sometimes I think that we're so busy trying to figure things out that there are people that have already figured it out that are willing to help. They just have to be asked. And we have to be willing to invest in ourselves. And I think that a lot of people that have been in our sphere know this. Like, I love high ticket. And I also don't believe that everything has to be a high ticket offer. I also don't believe that every coach needs to have a high ticket offer. And like the main reason for that is like, if everybody's selling high ticket, then you end up with this incestuous pool of everybody that has no money because they're all paying everybody the money they just made. And so they're like, the reality is there's some task. There are some things that like the value is just different than other things. And even if the value is more, there's also that as coaches, we get to price in a way that makes us happy, in a way that we want to be in alignment with. Me and my husband are starting a new membership, and it's $97 a month or $1,000 for the year. And I literally have one of my mentors says, you should be charging $300 a month. Like, you're still building out the content inside, but do you realize they get to be coached by you once a month in the group? Like, just the value of that. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to put that pressure on my nervous system. I also want to make it really easy for people that may know our other pricing to say, this is a great entry point for me.
Yeah, this is an absolute no-brainer.
Right?
And it's accessible to a different subset of people. This is what really drew me to you as my business coach, because you, as I was thinking, the only way to do this is to have a 3 or 6 month package that's $3,000 and $5,000. And then I get a wait list and then I create my group program. That's the only way to do this. And I had a background in online marketing, and it's like, all of that went out the window. I completely forgot the possibilities with that. I was like, this is how you do it as a coach. And you would start asking me, why can't you have a low ticket item? Why can't you do it this way? And I started thinking, yeah, why can't I? And it presented this whole buffet of ideas all of a sudden that then allowed me to start developing those relationships that would ultimately lead into higher ticket items or not. But it got me thinking, there's different ways to do this.
Yeah. And I think what happens is that so many coaches are focused on how do I make X money? And a real magic number in the coaching space, not even the life coach space. And I'm just going to say, even in the business space, right? Is I need to make 100K a year. It's just like, y'all, 100K ain't shit.
It's not magic.
And I'm saying this from the perspective of when you look at 100,000 and you pay taxes, and if you have to pay health insurance, and if you've got to pay software costs, like $100,000 doesn't feed you.
Doesn't go as far as you
like it doesn't go as far as you think. Like realistically, like the average coaching business, and I'm not going to quote a statistic. I know so many people talk about digital marketing is 97% profitability. Like it's not, because the credit card fees may be 3%, but you still had to make the course. You still have to pay for the hosting. You still had to hire graphic designers. And even if you did it all by yourself, you still had to pay for your computer. So like, it's really not 97% profitability. And so when we look at, oh, I made $100,000, but then take out, okay, you have a computer, you have insurance, you have light bills, you have internet, you have all of these things, like $100,000 really not that much. And so again, I don't say that to deter people to say, I don't want to make $100,000. What I love to start with coaches is be like, what do you actually want in life? So for me, like one of the things I want is I'm like, oh my God, I want to travel 100 days a year. And y'all, it's not even travel 100 days a year. You see it all over the place. I'm like, even y'all, my coffee mug, it's right there.
Yep.
I'm like, I want to build a business that allows me to go to Disney 100 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
Disneyland, Disney World, Disney Paris, Tokyo Sea, Shanghai, like Disney cruises. Y'all, I don't even know if I could do it. I don't know that I love Disney. I don't even know that I'd enjoy 100 days at Disney. It might be too much, but I want to give myself the option to find out. And so, like, when I'm looking at how we're building and our revenue models and the products and services that we're offering, like, I'm building to 100 days at Disney. I'm building to being able to help our families in different ways. I'm building to being able to create new experiences for my niece.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm building to how, if this is the life that we want, how is the life that I want and what I'm selling and the time that I'm putting into that, how are they in alignment with one another? Versus saying, I'm going to go hit this big business goal and then like completely hate my life when I get there, which I see so many coaches do. And then they're burnt out and then, oh, coaching's a scam. And then this is just, no, you didn't take the time to figure out what you want in life and build something that can sustain that. And so like, you don't take personal accountability and try to blame it on other people or other organizations that go start like your fucking Reddit threads because like you have zero personal accountability. And it's like, you have to have personal accountability. Like you can't just say, I want to help everybody else with their life and not worry about mine.
Yeah. So you can hit your 100K goal, but you may wake up and realize I have zero time left for the things I love in life.
You may be chasing, like somebody listening is maybe chasing this magical 100K goal, and you really need 120 to live. And so then you're going to get there and be like, it doesn't work. Coach does this. You got to take time to do the numbers. Sit down and be real with yourself. This is what I want in life. This is what the expenses are. This is what I would love to pay myself. It's like, there's an actual thing. And so even when coaches are like, I'm $1,500 an hour. And I know some coaches like this. Shit, I charge that sometimes. But I'm also like, that doesn't mean that's what the company pays me. It's so if, even if you work like for a mega corporation, and like they bill you out at $300 an hour, they don't pay you $300 an hour.
Right.
And so it's like the same thing. We're running businesses, people. And so if the company, AKA your LC, your C Corp, your DBA, whatever you have, charges X for coaching, that's different than in a business sense, what we're paid for coaching. Like I'm W-2 in my business. I'm an employee of my company. And so I think that too many coaches, they don't focus on the math.
And I want to mention right here, these are the things that you teach inside of your membership. So the business side of coaching, how to become a W-2 employee as opposed to whatever we think that we are supposed to do based on what we found on Google. I love that. But what I started to say was one of the things that attracted me so much to you as a coach is that there were a couple opportunities that we were looking at that I feel could have brought in a huge amount of money. And you looked at those with me and said, you don't want that. That's not the life you want. You want to be available to go to all the football games where your daughter in marching band is playing, where your cheerleader daughter is performing. And you want to be available to go to these field trips with your youngest and to have all of those opportunities. And you said, you don't want this life. And it was such a wake-up call to me to think about prioritizing the life I want to over meeting these financial goals.
Yeah. And I think that it's so key. And y'all, to be clear, I'm going to change one thing. That's maybe how Ashley heard it. What I ask is, you've shared with me that you want to be at football games. You've shared with me that you want to be with your kids in the summer and be able to take time and travel and not have to be working. You've shared with me this. Are these still the things you want? And if so, how is this, whatever this opportunity is, in alignment with this thing that you say that you want?
And I heard you don't want this because I knew you're right. I don't want this. So you're exactly right. You never come to me and say, no, that's not what you should do. But you ask really great questions that lead me to that spot. So I love this. I think that is such valuable information, even though we haven't even talked about your first big partnership yet. Yes. Tell us about that.
So the partnership that changed my life. And it's so funny, is it feels so weird saying this is the biggest moment, because I feel like some of the people listening are going to be like, oh my God, let me get my notepad. And so here it is, y'all. How many of you like would just absolutely love to have a 66% close rate on a webinar.
That's
Like
amazing.
I've never met anybody say, I don't want that. I don't want that. Oh my God, 66% close rate. Let's go. And here's the answer. Have 3 people show up and have 2 buy.
I love that you can say, yeah, my first webinar, my most successful webinar, I had a 66% close rate because
Yeah,
I
but it did
three
happen
people
to be my first webinar. Like it's the first one I'd done by myself. Like a few people signed up. I don't even remember how many signed up, but I remember is that 3 people showed up.
Oh, wow.
And I say it is the thing that changed my life. One, because I did the webinar and dear God, that was so scary to put myself out there like that. Like I
I
can't see these
imagine.
people. And there was like 3 people and 2 people bought my course. And at that point, the course was $297. Like, yes. Like I just thought it was so amazing that I made almost $600 like in an hour at home.
Incredible. So you had
And
that taste for it
like,
at that point.
yeah, yeah. And it was so crazy. So the third person, and this is by this point, this is probably 2014, like
Okay.
for perspective. And actually, I can tell you right here. Okay. Yeah. July 2nd, 2014, this
Okay.
person emailed me. And going back, right? This is Tom Antion,
Mhm.
person who I was like, I don't know about this WordPress thing, but I'm going to figure it out. Can I have a payment plan? So Tom was on that. And he sent me an email with the subject line, "Are you ready for the big time?" question mark.
Okay.
All the copy of the body says is this: "You've proven your webinar works. Let's book one to my list."
That's the email he sent you.
Yes. And I didn't even know what that meant. When he was like, "Book a webinar on my list," let's be clear, I didn't know what that meant.
Uh-huh.
He said, "Are you ready for the big time?" I'm like, "What's the big time?" I thought I was in the big time. I'm like, man, we doing good. Like at that point, we were already doing over 6 figures a year in 2014. And I'm like, there's more.
Um, so you had,
Like
looking back, this wasn't someone that had just
I'm
met
putting this
you.
here for y'all to see.
I
Like,
love
like
it.
this changed my life.
Oh, this gives me
I
goosebumps.
and again, this was the same person that like literally allowed me, believed in me enough to be like, I can't afford this
Mhm.
$100 and something thing. And it's, here's my PayPal address. Email me when you have a chance. And so here we are a couple years later, and he's, oh, that was good. Let's do it.
What
So I
was
didn't
the
know what big
webinar?
time meant. It was for that course, the sponsorship
The sponsor was
roadmap.
all about sponsorship. So I think that what
Tying
is
back to this course, and y'all, I want you to hear this. The same thing that I developed for 2012 to sell at this conference, 2 years
still
later,
selling.
we're doing a webinar around this same exact course. The difference was is we weren't mailing out DVDs at the time, but because the videos were still in my thing, we were selling it online. We were using WordPress, and I want to say we were using like Wishlist Member at the time.
Oh my goodness.
Because again, like Kajabi was just coming out. Not many people knew what it was. Entreport wasn't really doing courses at the time. Entreport wasn't even Entreport at the time. I don't think. I think it was still like SendPepper or Moonclerk or something like that. And so, like, we're using the tools that are with us at the time to just say, how do I make this work? And so, when Tom's like, big time, I was like, okay, let's figure this out. And I remember we're doing this, and I'm going to say 100, y'all. It was more than 100, but I don't want to exaggerate. So I'm going to say 100. Is in the first couple hours, Tom texted me and he's like, we're at 100 registrations. It was more than that, but I don't remember the exact number. And I was like, this is like the first hour. I've never had, like, I've promoted for 2 weeks and never gotten this many people to
Yes.
sign up. Like, I just had 3 people show up at the last one and we've had this many.
Mhm.
And so, and I just remember him telling me, like, oh, this ain't nothing.
This
And we
was
kept going and we got to the webinar. And this is the first webinar that Warren listened to. I was living in Houston. Warren and I were not dating. We weren't married or anything at the time. We were really just friends. And I went into my office, shut the door. I'm doing the webinar with Tom and got off the webinar. And it was 5 figures. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was 5 figures. And I was just like, I just made 5 figures in about an hour for something that I don't have to fulfill that I recorded 2 years ago.
That's amazing.
And it's really what allowed me to understand the power of affiliate marketing. And I think that when coaches hear affiliate marketing, they're so busy trying to find, oh my God, let me get my Amazon link or let me get to this link and looking for 4% or 10% of whatever purchase versus building intellectual property that people can go promote and then they can choose how much they want to pay them. And so when Tom and I do stuff like that, I pay him 50% of it. Even paying 50% over the years, I've made a great, healthy chunk of change, more than many coaches make in an entire year, because I created something that somebody else could promote. And then we did good. Tom introduced me to somebody by the name of Jeff Herring, who introduced me to Mike Stewart, and people just started promoting this online course. And I'm like, this is amazing. I show up just like you and I are talking right now, and people are buying this thing that I recorded 2 years ago. This kid, I'm saying kid at the time, like I still say that sometimes. I'm like, this kid who has a fucking GED and didn't finish high school is out here making multiple six figures because I just bet on myself and I kept going.
So amazing. And here's what I want
to
say.
I didn't have to have the answers.
Because it'd be easy to listen to this and be like, oh, you got this big break, this guy, but this guy decided to promote you, but you put in the work. You were the one who went and approached him and said, I want to do this. Then you got his course. You did it. And I think that is a huge piece of it. You didn't just watch the videos. You didn't just.
But let's address that, right? And so, I got this big break. It was amazing. And I also didn't let it mean anything about me that like, this is the only level I can work at. Like to this day, like the date of this recording, I literally have other coaches and other business owners that have Facebook groups that have 20 people, and I will still go in and train. I have a friend that was running a group and she literally had 10 people in it. She's, can you come train? So, yes. How much do you charge? I don't.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, again, this is so counterintuitive because so many coaches are like, everything I do, I need to get fucking paid for. And I'm like, oh my God, like you have a Facebook group, you have a membership that I can show up in and deliver value. Hello, this is like free lead generation.
Yeah.
Even if I can't make an offer in that group, which most of the times I can't, if I show up as me, serve and train the way that I train, there ain't no way that these people ain't going to go look me up, because I just believe that I can serve at that level with that level of value that people are just like, shit, if this is the free stuff, what's the paid?
And I just love this because it's coming back to, you invest in people, you serve, you invest in those relationships, and it continues to come back to you over and over. So everything you're saying here is just such gold, because I think you're exactly right. People are like, oh, if I'm going to come teach, then I need to make a certain amount each hour for that. Whereas they're not looking at it from a perspective of, I want to build these relationships because it's going to come back to me. I love it.
And I think that's something that's so key to this. And like, this is going to ruffle feathers probably. And that's okay. It's what I do. Like, I just say what I think. Is that I started my business, my first business in 2009. We've changed entities for tax purposes since then, which is like another thing, like get an accountant. Oh my God, we can help you. But I didn't get certified. I didn't even approach certification, like a life coaching certification or any coaching certification until 2022. I'd been in business for 13 years already. And so for the big blessing of that is that I didn't have any one organization saying, here's how you make money. What I had was like, starting from what's possible, I got to eat. And so my very first possibility, I know that so many life coaches talk about what's possible. What was possible for me was to live indoors. What was possible for me was to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
What was possible for me then was like, okay, we have food, we have water, we have shelter. Like, and it's so funny. Like, I love how today we have so many coaches that are like, I can't wait to get my first $10,000 a month. And I remember that. It also wasn't my next goal. It was like, oh my God, how do we make $3,000 consistently? Oh my God, now that we do that, like, how can I take a vacation? Oh my God, how can I? And so it's so interesting because I didn't have a certifying body or a certifying organization say, this is the only way you get paid. What I had was, how do I figure out how to make money?
Yeah.
because I can't buy all the courses. I can't pay for high dollar coaches. I can't pay
Mhm.
for this. What do I want to do to change my life?
You had the drive and you had the willingness to be scrappy and fail over.
And like to this day, one of the core values of my company is we do it scrappy. And so I tell people, like, if you're looking for the perfect coach, if you're looking for like the person who's always going to have all their shit together, if you're looking for the coach that like there's not going to be a typo or the email may not like, y'all listen, a couple months ago, I literally, because my VA was busy, I was like, oh, I'll get the email sent out. I went and set a call reminder, went into Entreport, scheduled it, everything. Y'all, I scheduled the call reminder for the day after the call. But again, like if you're looking for the coach that's not going to make mistakes and not going to be human, then like I'm probably not the person, because I believe that like we have so many people that are trying to act like they're in this ivory tower and not in this journey called life, like the people that we're working with. If they have imperfections, why wouldn't we?
And I think, again, I know I keep saying this, but this was another piece that really attracted me to you as a coach, because it gave me permission to do things imperfectly. And suddenly, even little things where you were like, oh, when I send it out, it's a Google Doc. And I started sending things out as a Google Doc. So it allowed me to start taking imperfect action and not worry about if my website's perfect, not worry about that, but just serve my people, which led me to incredibly high earning months. Not only that though, but
Yes.
it fit my lifestyle.
And that's
So
what's
I love
key.
that.
And I think another example of this, right? And y'all see, I told y'all we had no idea where we're going to go today, is so I remember like in 2013, 2014, I was making handouts, and I don't know if Canva was around then, y'all. Okay. Like even today, you don't want me to play in Canva from scratch. I literally have a virtual assistant now, but even before that, like I would use Fiverr. Right? Not
Mm-hmm.
everything has to be a $2,000 or $3,000 graphic designer. I've
Mm-hmm.
gotten so much great stuff off of Fiverr. And so I literally made a Word document. I don't even know that we had Google Docs at the time. Like it was like a Word document. I actually think it was a word processor to be very specific. And I was just like, I just literally typed and then I saved it as a PDF. And I remember one day Warren was looking at these and he's just, what is it? I was like, it's my handout. He's like, that's not a handout. That's a PDF. That's just like a plain Word doc. I was like, I know, because people aren't going to buy that. I said, but they do.
They do.
And
You're like, just watch.
and so then one day I was like, okay, fine. I can do this. And I went and got to Fiverr and I had somebody like make me this little website header. And then all I did was copy and paste that website header to the top of the Word doc. And then I saved it. And Warren was like, this looks even worse. Just go back to what you were doing. I was like, see, this is why it does not have to be. And like, oh my God, I was going to say it, but this is things. It does not need to be pretty for you to be profitable.
Yeah.
And I think that so many people are focused on what is the perceived image. And then they get into past the pretty, the shine, the everything else. And then your back end's a hot mess.
Mm.
So what do you think is more important? The fulfillment that they're going to experience and that they're going to see and the coaching and all of that, or like the pretty page? Like if we're going to have high-end offers with high-end front ends, then like the service has to be able to match what we're pricing for this. I have a client, and some of y'all may know her, but she's got an amazing $9 product. And what I love about it, right, is that she's, look, I do all of this for $9. And if you find something wrong with it, it's $9. Like, here's your $9 buy.
Yeah.
And I like, that's what I also love, right, is that we can fulfill, we can deliver, we can give so much. And there's some people that are always going to want more. And so that's also why in so many areas, I love low ticket, because I'm just like literally there ain't no other world. It's like Costco, right? There ain't no other place you're going to get a hot dog and a drink for $1.50.
This is so fantastic. And I'm interested to hear when I make this live, it'll be a live premiere. So our audience can ask questions in the chat as we are talking, even though it will be later. But I'm interested to hear in the chat right now as we're talking, if people have felt this, if coaches have felt this. I have to have this perfect, beautiful portrayal of myself, this beautiful website before I can get started. So I think that's something that we all get caught up in as coaches, because we think that we have to show up as the person that we want to be, even though we might not be there yet. So I just love, I have experienced this over and over having you as my coach, is that freedom to not have to worry about everything being perfect before I do it. Great. So I feel like you've answered so many of the questions that I would ask already, but I want to I've been taking notes. I want to just reverse engineer how you started.
Let's
And
do
you
it.
gave so much detail. So you started out by doing these free presentations with United Way.
Yeah.
So you got started. I put the, go ahead.
I was to say, yeah. So
Dad.
free presentations, right? And I think I would just make it abstract, I guess more specific, like to where people are at, is find people who have access to the people that you want to help and find a way to deliver value there. It may be in
There's so
person, it
much
may be
more
online.
opportunity now, right?
Oh, yeah. It could be like this. It could be a YouTube live. It could
Uh-huh.
be on a podcast. It could be if somebody has a free Facebook group, if somebody has a mastermind, if somebody has a membership. So I'd say like that like the key takeaway from that thing is find somebody who already has access to the people that you want to serve, show up with the intention to serve.
I love that. That is beautiful. And then I put that number 2, you were willing to just try and fail, because I think that's such a critical part of everybody's journey. So we have to have that
Yeah.
willingness.
Yeah. And to that, I would say this is I'm working on a presentation right now for something. And like the definition that I wrote, so let me find this again. I love that I just get to look up notes. This is so amazing. But this is the definition of willingness that I wrote. Is willingness is our ability to be open-minded, receptive, and ready to openly engage with circumstances, thoughts, and feelings, even when, notice the even when, it's uncomfortable or uncertain. And so I think that like that big part is just to be like, just like acknowledge and actually normalize. I really don't know how this is going to go, because even if I have the perfect plan, like there could be a natural health disaster, like a global pandemic, right? And think about all the people who had the perfect plan. And then we were going to be on lockdown for 2 weeks. And then the whole world is like still recovering from this thing. And so it's like even the best plans, things happen. Like and another weird example, and this is something that like, I don't know, someone's gonna say I shouldn't say this, but I just say the things that people don't say. But it's just, I know so many amazing like humans that are like, oh my God, we're going to have the perfect photo shoot over here. And we're going to go to Disney and we're going to this and we're going to that and we're going to whatever. And then you get there and the kid is like crying in the middle of the photo session. You give them an ice cream bar to try to take the thing. They put the ice cream all over your white shirt. And it's just, do not take the picture. And it ends up being some of the best photography because they just captured you in real life. It captured like, this is the moment. And I think that so many coaches are not willing to feel all the feels and like just acknowledge this is where we are.
So beautiful. And that really resonates with coaches' audience. So I'd be interested too to hear this in the chat if people have found when they show up more authentically, more, and that's a coachy word that gets thrown around, but just being real and being yourself, if that tends to resonate more with clients. So I love that. So then from there, you started teaching. This is what you were saying, but started teaching at other people's events, other people's groups. You wrote a book. You created the landing page, put a PayPal button on it, and started selling your book as a PDF. And then you talked about it. So everyone you met, you just told them about it, right? You then went and created a video series that you've sold on DVDs for somewhere between $200 and $300. And did that as a webinar. So you turned that into an online course and did it as a webinar where you had a 66% close rate.
I know. So it's so crazy. Like, it's just, yeah.
But that, because you had invested and put your time into serving other people and building those relationships, that became a partnership where someone said, I want to promote you to my audience, which led to other incredibly lucrative partnerships. Absolutely. And then you continued selling that course online. So I love how your emphasis on serving, creating those relationships, make it easy for someone to promote your, yes, you're going to emphasize that. I've learned that from you.
Yeah. I think I know we're probably coming up on time here. And I think that everything you've said, like, I'm actually getting ready to relaunch my podcast. I had started it, but when going back to, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be right. Y'all, like, I hope this frees somebody. Like, I've had 3 podcast names in less than a year and a half because I just kept changing it.
That is free to people, I think.
And guess what? People still got value. And then I haven't put out a podcast since I think like November or December of last year of 2022. And here's what's even crazier, because I was taking time to step back, focus on who I was already coaching, those relationships, and also allowing myself the opportunity to do a bunch of healing. And I think that's a whole nother conversation, is like part of the way you make money is allowing yourself to like to reset and to heal and ask, is this really serving me? Is this what I really want? So I have 7 or 8 podcasts that are recorded already, and we're going to start releasing those. And what's funny is like some of them were recorded in March of this year. And so if I were to sum all of it up, it's 3 words. 1, relationships make money. And that's actually the name of the podcast. And I will be working on a new book called that, and focusing on relationships. But I'll even say within that, the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself, and the relationship with our desires, our goals, and like all the shit that we say in our head. And in allowing yourself the permission to actually talk back to your brain. So if it says I can't do it, and it's just like, why don't you just talk back and be like, oh yes, we can, watch me. You're just like, okay, my brain said it, it must be real. And so like understanding that relationships make money. And number 2 is just allowing yourself the opportunity to be like, it doesn't matter what other people have said. It doesn't matter like what I've experienced, that if there truly is something that I want to accomplish, let's try.
I can do it.
Notice, I don't even say that I can do it. I say I can try, right? Because Walt Disney once said, it's fun to do the impossible. But there's a reason it's called the impossible. And so even if we don't get to the impossible, it's so much fun to fucking try and to do it and just be like, well, they're right. You can't do the impossible, but I learned this in the process. And so I would say like the biggest journey to making money as a life coach is trusting yourself and allowing yourself the opportunity to go out, just do it messy, do it scrappy, experiment, and really make it like a laboratory. Ask yourself things from the place of, hey, is this going to work? Let's make it work. And then if it doesn't work, be like, cool. Let's figure out what needs to work. Now, damn, I was a dumbass. I don't know why I thought that should work. Like that is the reason I'm still in business 14 years later, is that when failure happens, I don't let it mean shit about me. I just be like, okay, we missed the mark. How do we tweak?
Now
how do we keep going? Now
Such
what?
gold.
But I still let myself have a pity party.
If people just listen to this part and understand this is all I have to do is go out and try the things, not make it mean anything about myself if I fail, question the stories that my brain is telling me. That is like the roadmap to success as a coach. I love it. So I'm going to ask my favorite question. I actually learned this question from you because you asked me this on your stage. So if you had $1,000, had to completely start over, what would you do?
So I've had $1,000, completely had to start over, and I know everything that I know now.
You have all the information and you don't have to worry about eating and paying your bills. Okay. You have that taken care of. So you want to start to build a successful coaching business. What would you do?
I would build an online course. I would build a landing page. I would hire a virtual assistant to help with some of that. And then I would use a large chunk of that money to make small affiliate gifts. And because I already know everybody I know, I would be reaching out to people saying, hey, I've got this thing coming up. Can you help me promote it? Because that is the quickest way to sales. Is I think so many coaches are focused on, and like, again, should a coach have a community? Absolutely. Should they build one? Yes. I think one of the most profitable ways that coaches build profitable communities online is by leveraging the powers of partnerships, because there's people that already have access to the people that we can serve that don't serve them the way that we do. And they're so attached to, I think so many coaches are so attached to being 100% of the transformation of their people. And I'm like, there's shit I don't do well. So let me find somebody that does. So I would build online course. I would build a membership, something like that. And I would spend the money on reaching out to affiliates, because those relationships will lead to the customer acquisition, so that I can do what I do, which is stay in my lane, and I can let people stay in theirs. And it would just be amazing.
So you said something there that I want to question. You said I would spend the money with affiliate gifts. What does that mean?
So people that would promote our program, our product, our service. So I don't have any on my desk right now, but I would actually, here's a candle that like one of our clients made, past client. And so like I would literally put together mini gift boxes and mail them to people. It'd be like, here's a candle. So we actually have a custom scented candle that we had somebody make called Community. We have another one called Collaboration. And so literally at one point I mailed out to affiliates a candle called Collaboration. It was just like, just want to let you know, I really appreciate this. And by the way, here's the upcoming things that we have. And so, like, showing appreciation and value to the people that are allowing us to bring value to their people, but also bringing us value because they're bringing us customers.
This is the most unique answer that I've gotten to this question. I love it so much. You would build the online course and you would have people help you promote it. That is amazing. It makes me want to go do it. I love this. So I just want to, we can wrap up here. And I want to ask, first of all, if there's anything else you want to add, and then just share with us what your current offer is. What are you promoting right now? And then how can the audience contact you and find you?
Yeah. Y'all, they trying to make me do Instagram more. So go follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to get my life together on social media. I have so many thoughts about it. So Instagram, the podcast is going to be coming back. Relationships Make Money. So you can find that on either my website or your favorite listening platform. And even if I don't have a new one out yet, go listen to what's already there. You're bound to learn something from it. Current things is Profitable Community Academy, which is our new membership, which is, I like to say, it's an online training and networking organization helping coaches learn how to build profitable businesses and profitable communities. The communities may be like your peers, it may be affiliates, it will be your clients, it'll be Facebook groups. There's so many different avenues of community, and really being clear on that. And so I think Ashley has a link or something to that. I love my mastermind. And so going into next year, the new name of our mastermind is The Table, which super excited about that. We'll let people know about that if they want to know. But in closing, I think like what I think about when I'm either on a podcast or getting to speak at an event is, what am I allowing people to see that's possible? And I would say is, ask yourself as you're living your life, as you're doing what you're doing, as things come up, you're like, oh my God, I don't like that they do it that way. Like, why is that organization doing that? Like, really ask, like, A, what can I learn from this? But B, really saying, like, how am I really being an example of what's possible? And so for me, like, I want to be an example to people of color that, like, you can go out and build a multi 6-figure, 7-figure business just being you. And like I said, I don't like to use the word real. I don't like to use the word authentic. I was like, just being you, just showing up. And like, y'all have noticed, like, I use words incorrectly. I cuss, I giggle. Sometimes I pause because I don't know what to say because of some diagnosed learning disabilities. Like, I just say stuff, right? And so just allow yourself to show up as you, and know that the people that are supposed to follow you, that are supposed to be a part of your community, people that's supposed to be your clients, like, they're going to see you and see something in just being you that nobody else can offer in the world. But they don't get to see that if you're not willing just to show up as you. And so I would say show up as you. And number two, just ask, how do I bring more play into what I do?
I love that. That is such a beautiful message, just to show up as you, no matter who you are. I love it so
Yeah.
much. This has all been such incredibly useful information. And I will put all the links to everything you just shared, from PCA to The Table, your mastermind, which I am part of and love more than anything. I'll put all the links to that in the description below during the YouTube video. And yeah, check out Roberto on Instagram, and maybe
Dun,
we'll
dun,
get him
dun.
posting more often.
Maybe.
So yeah, that is all that we have today, friends. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us on how to market and sell life coaching. There's a little bit of background noise here. Hopefully it's not too loud. So for any of you listening right now that want to have a one-on-one conversation with me, you can connect with Roberto on Instagram if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me about how you can use any of the strategies that we've talked about on these shows to grow your coaching business. You can go to talkwithashley.com and you can book a time there for a strategy session. And then just please take a second, if you're watching this on YouTube, to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to it on a podcasting app, to follow and then review the show, just because that allows us to reach more people. So come join my free community by going to marketingforlifecoaches.com and request to join. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for being here today, Roberto. Bye.